Alright guys, so here's a pending trade on the New Zealand USD 4-hour chart. It's a little bit unusual because of the time of day here. It's 3 o'clock p.m. You guys will not see me executing many 4-hour trades. Maybe 5% of my trades could come at this time or something in that area. But we have just a lot of volatility on the yen pairs, especially bearish side. Things can get shaky real quickly. I'm just go ahead and I'm actually trading the New Zealand USD. There is an interesting play, so let me just pull it up here, on the New Zealand yen too. We have this sort of triple low here with this bearish outside bar almost closing down here. Then I would have taken this one, but again, I'm a little bit picky with these things, but a break of this should show us a breakdown too, hopefully. But here's the New Zealand USD, crazy uptrend, right? But what do we get here? We get this turning over price we talk about all the time. When you see this failure highs, so these highs are less significant, and then price starts to turn over, that's your divergence right there. You're not going to even need to check your chart. You will see that as divergence. Again, confirm it. Nice to confirm it. So we got a lot of moving pieces here. Trend line, right? Rising trend line, clear 3 touches, even a 4th touch here, right? Boom. What happens? Price closes under it. Bearish outside bar, sort of this breakout pullback. Big round number, 8,000 mark. A break of this bearish outside bar now is a break of 1, 2, 3 bar low. Where am I looking now? The touches of the trend line as my major trouble areas. Yes, there's other areas in here to watch. I will look to move my stop down above the 8,000 mark. Hopefully we get going quick here. Hopefully this area turns into support. I really don't want to see it pull back too much more than 8,000, but we got to let it work its way around too. And see what happens. So this should be an interesting one. I really like the story here, and I will update this chart each time. Just a quick update here, guys. So, this is a little bit unorthodox for me, but it's something like I try to explain to you guys. You have to be flexible to the situations, and just sort of go with the flow here. So normally you guys probably are aware that I would cancel my order after this next bar does not break the low. But being that this trade was initiated later in the day, was put on at 3 o'clock Eastern time, and now it's 7 o'clock, it's sort of an off-market time as is, and I still believe in this overall story. It's a very strong one. This price turning over, this bearish outside bar, and now this little inside bar has not changed anything. If anything, now we have, this 4 bar low or 3 bar low or 5 bar low, however you want to look at it here. So a break of this area should be a good continuation play still based on this setup. So I'm going to let this one go. In all likelihood, this would be the last bar, but like I said, who knows? This might just be another inside bar, and I may actually end up keeping this. So I will update this each time. Alright, so this trade has just triggered here, so I left my order in as I spoke about. So we just literally nicked in here now, and I've already gone ahead and moved my stop down above here. See, because already this inside bar here was our pullback with no close above 8,000. So essentially this is what we were sort of watching for if it broke, and then it did pull back. So it's essentially the same scenario. Now we already reduced our risk, and we get half off the table immediately, which is always nice here. So hopefully we see some follow through now, and then I'll be looking towards this area in here. You can see these lows in here, and then towards this area in here. If we break very hard, this take profit's going to get pulled and move down to this last one here. Alright, so just a quick update here. We broke out nice at, nice close, nice strong breakout, showing us that our area is correct, our bar is correct, every analysis so far is correct. So we got to go into our trade management mode. Basically what happened is we just sort of trickled along after the strong move. We had a pullback. I didn't move my stop at that point. I left it in place up here. Reason being is that it wouldn't be unlikely or that we would retest sort of this area in here that we closed under. So we sort of got that retest here. Even personally, I wouldn't even have minded a higher retest. It sort of would have given me even a little bit more confidence in this. And now we sort of just came back down. We formed this bearish outside bar. Right towards our first trouble area here, right? So we always say, what are our trouble areas on these trend line breaks? They're going to be the clear and trend line break points. So here's our first trouble area, which was the breakout of. Price pulls back to it pretty much. here's our next trouble area. So we're at this area here. We're at this area. This is a good time for me to go to break even. If price pulls all the way back up to here and wants to drop down again, that's fine. I'm not going to assume more risk at this point. What I would like to see us is sort of just work our way down here, and ultimately, I pulled my take profit down here, and I'd really like to see if we can make it down to this lower trend line. There's just a very strong bearish move here on this turnaround, with a lot of other currency pairs really breaking hard to the downside. The yen pairs, which tend to drag the New Zealand USD, Australian USD, gold, and all those sort of correlated, type of pairs will tend to move together when this type of thing happens. So let's see what happens. You can see right now we're forming this sort of mini small pin bar, nothing to scare me out. You could at that point, let's say this closes like that, move your stop above here, lock in a little bit of profit. But I'm willing here to give this up. It's a good amount of profit I'm in here, but I'm willing for the chance of this larger move here. To me, this setup is worth it. So we'll have to see what happens, and again, I will update this each time. Quick update here. Prices has moved along nicely, pretty much, as we expected. We stalled slightly over here, and wanted to leave this on, and it wasn't worth it to me to move my stop at any time this point, based on how strong the setup was. Now you can see we're reaching our more major trouble area, right? The points of our trend line are going to be major trouble areas, areas to watch. This was my initial take profit. You guys remember I decided to move it earlier on just because of the strength of the moves across the board, and I still would like to see what happens here. At the end of this clip I make here, I'm going to move my stop just above 7,900 here. Let me just put that on there. So here's 7,900. I'm going to move my stop just under this bar high. I'm just going to move it about right here, probably 79.25 or so. And then I'm going to see what this next push does. Right now we're just sitting here, and that doesn't bother me. Usually you might sit here, bounce around and get that next push down. That next push down, though, I am going to look for a take profit. I am going to look to exit this trade. I think it's done what we expected, so for the most part. This could be an overall larger move down, but there could be a substantial retrace, and I don't really feel positioned for that retrace, so to speak. I don't know if I can. I will be able to stay in it. We could see a retrace all the way back up towards where our entry is. You can see I also have this descending trend line drawn, and this is not a trend line I would ever trade off of, but at the same time it's one I would watch, because when this breaks we could see that retrace before the next move down. So I am watching this. If price bounces here, maybe we'll see something like that before the next move down, and we'll look to take profit somewhere in here. So that's just an update, and we'll see what happens. Alright guys, so I just wanted to do a quick wrap up here, sort of. Well, not a wrap up yet, but just a little bit of exactly what I'm looking to do now. Now that we sort of broke through this area, so before we were sort of hanging around here. So it was, every time you get information, it can change your plan, or at least you adapt to it a little bit. Now, essentially, what I'm going to do is, we spoke about this descending trend line and how we can use it for trade management. I'm pretty much going to try to ride this trend line down into the take profit here. So pretty much the second I get a close above this trend line, I will just flat out close my trade. So for now, my stop's here. I probably will move it down to above these bar highs after this bar close, so a 2-bar stop. So this is how you guys can see how I use all these tools that I try to teach and integrate it depending on how the trade works out. So I will probably, depending on how this bar closes, look to move my stop, just close in some more profit here for my sell, and then look to ride this into this final take profit. But if, let's say, price comes down, then starts to move out and it closes somewhere out here, I will just pretty much flat out close that trade. So I just wanted to give that small update. Alright guys, so here's just a final update on this trade. It actually closed last night, but I was just so wiped out that I actually didn't record it after it closed. But you can see here where I got stopped out here right around just under 7,900. You can see we closed above this trend line we spoke about, and this is a pretty sharp pullback. We have non-farm payroll coming up, and my stop up here isn't as safe as I'd like it to be, and there's not as much support possible, resistance coming up into this area. So leaving this trade on is okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that if you, let's say, go to break even. But this area here is sort of the area that looks like it may want to get tested before we move down, as opposed to if there was an area down, down here, that I would say, all right, maybe I'll leave my stop and see what happens. You can see as this is a non-farm payroll bar basically, so we're way high up now. That's too much profit for me to give up. So again, I hope this video helps.